The New York Rangers are definitely a team that has been looking to make a pretty big trade for a star caliber player for quite some time to really kind of shake up this core here and kind of take it in a different direction with kind of the main core players of this team, from guys like maybe Jacob Trouba and the Zibanejad and the Chris Kreider's, more towards the guys like a Vincent Trocheck, Lafreniere, a JT Miller, and obviously guys like Adam Fox and stuff like that as well. So I think the Rangers definitely trying to go in maybe a bit of a different direction with this JT Miller trade, and I think overall, personally, is a pretty good one. But there definitely are quite a few Rangers fans that have their worries and don't think it's that good of a trade and actually think it's a pretty bad one. So in today's video, we're really going to kind of break this trade down here and really talk about some of the negatives and some of the positives about this deal. And I can understand why some fans may not like this deal for the Rangers, but personally, I think it's a pretty good one. So I'll kind of give you my thoughts and opinions on some of the negatives and positives in today's video. So let's get right into it here. And starting off by taking a look at the assets that the Rangers did trade away. And, first off, like I've kind of talked about in the past video, really kind of breaking down this overall trade when it happened, I think what the Rangers gave up for a player of JT Miller's caliber, him being a true superstar caliber player, I mean, he has the potential to be that 90 to 100 point kind of player while having that really good two-way game, being a good centerman. And I mean, that's a big thing as well, is he can play center, he can play wing, he's a good two-way guy, good offensively, good defensively, 90 to 100 points, has that kind of feistiness and pain in the butt to kind of play against type players. So that's a big bonus. The physicality that he has is also a great thing. So I think overall, personally, his play style is perfect for this New York Rangers team. And we also saw the New York Rangers get a couple other players, one being Jackson Dorrington, a prospect who is currently playing for Northeastern University, 6'2", left-handed defenseman, pretty much swapping him and Mancini. They're probably about equal value, you could probably argue. I don't know exactly, but they're probably pretty close to that. So pretty much swapping them. Obviously the Canucks get the kind of more NHL-ready guy in Victor Mancini, who is that bigger kind of right-handed defenseman, where obviously still a pretty big defenseman, 6'2", but a little bit smaller than Victor Mancini and obviously playing left-sided. So a little different there, but still a decent prospect. And also, you have a guy by the name of Erik Brannstrom, who is a pretty talented guy. I mean, not some elite kind of defenseman, obviously, but could be a decent bottom kind of pairing defenseman on the left side there for this team. Still only 25 years old. He will be an RFA this upcoming offseason, so he will be quite easy to possibly bring back if the Rangers want to do so, or possibly trade away for a draft pick or a prospect potentially. And he can be a kind of bottom pairing guy on that left side, be a decent kind of puck mover, solid offensively, at moments can be decent defensively, but maybe can be a bit of a liability at moments as well, the odd time. So definitely an interesting player. Some coaches have a little bit of a tough time maybe trusting him at moments, and we'll have to wait and see kind of what happens with him and whether or not the Rangers really give him a good long look at the NHL level with this team. But if they do, he definitely could end up being a potentially kind of decent addition for this team, and definitely could very well end up being an upgrade over Ryan Lindgren, who, let's be honest, has not been playing good hockey lately. So I think, adding in a guy like Brannstrom definitely gives you more of the option of possibly trading away Lindgren for, pick or prospect if that becomes available. So that could be enticing there for the Rangers to get something back for him. And, overall, what the Rangers gave up, being Filipino, who, yes, he's a fan favorite. A lot of fans loved him. I think he was a really good player for this team for quite some time. I was definitely a big fan of his and still definitely will be. But I think overall, when you factor in the concussions, which it has definitely clearly come up big time recently. I mean, last season he had a pretty major kind of, just kind of ruined season pretty much because of the concussions. So I think when you consider that, and him being possibly kind of one hit away, one concussion away from really kind of having to call it quits, I think that definitely makes sense to kind of move on from Filipino at this point. And, I do hope he kind of goes there and becomes maybe a 60-point kind of guy like I really kind of always thought he could consistently be possibly at the NHL level. So if he ends up doing that, great for Philip there. He's definitely got a lot of talent. Maybe he can take that step up after leaving the Rangers here, which we saw this from a guy like Kakko, obviously, so maybe the same thing happens with Hedl, but I think overall, losing him, it's not the biggest deal when you are adding in a guy of JT Miller's caliber. You've also got Victor Mancini, who I definitely think, is a decent prospect, but you also get Jackson Dorrington back, so it's not too big of a loss. And now for that first-round pick that the Rangers ended up giving up for this year's draft, potentially. Now, it is top 13 protected for this upcoming draft in 2025, so it's not ideal giving up a first-round pick, but for most kind of reports on what people are saying, It's that this draft is not very deep overall. There are, 6 or 7 kind of really potentially elite prospects, especially kind of 3 or 4 guys, and then another few after that, kind of in that top 6 or 7 overall, that are looking very, very good. But after that, it seems to really kind of fall off in this year's draft. So giving up a potentially kind of mid to later round pick won't actually maybe be as big of a kind of loss as other drafts, especially in kind of next year's draft, which projects to be a very kind of deep one. So I think if the Rangers can obviously, give up this year's first, try and make the playoffs there, and, obviously give up a kind of, pick 14 or later on, give up this year's pick, you have next year's to either use in the draft or trade away also. But I think overall, it's not a bad situation at all, because the Rangers are getting back a very talented player. They overall didn't give up too much. I mean, you swap prospects there in Victor Mancini and Dorrington. You get back Brannstrom, who's a solid kind of depth/bottom pairing defenseman who's still fairly young and will be an RFA. And then you give up Hedl, yes, but he has concussion problems. The first round pick is protected and possibly in a not great draft. So I think overall the Rangers won this trade as of right now, and I can understand the overall kind of worry about, maybe long-term adding in JT Miller. And I definitely have talked about it in the past as well, where I have my questions about adding in JT Miller while still having Mika Zibanejad on this roster, because right now, the Rangers have 2 aging centermen in JT Miller and Mika Zibanejad, and obviously maybe Mika is going to be a winger from now on. We'll have to wait and see what the kind of situation is there and kind of what the coaching staff and management decide to do with Mika. But overall, you know what I'm saying there. We have 2 aging kind of forwards now in Mika and JT Miller, who are both making, $8 million for JT and $8.5 million for Mika Zibanejad, and both have 5 more seasons left under contract after this season. And, like I said, our guys were definitely, starting to get into their mid part of their 30s now, and obviously going to get older and older, and probably going to start to regress even more possibly as things go on. But I do think someone like a JT Miller, his play style does project to possibly end up being really good, or at least kind of project to work out kind of decently well long term. And I don't think he's going to age too poorly with his overall kind of style of play, because he is that kind of pain in the butt player to play against there. He's not some elite kind of speedster out there, so it's not like he relies on that. He still has his good skill, the shot, the overall offensive hockey IQ, and the overall good defensive play. So I think he should kind of, fit fine going forward, and, it shouldn't be too bad at all. And if you have not already, definitely go check out yesterday's video, which I really kind of broke down the overall kind of cap situation for the New York Rangers and the NHL going forward, as the salary cap kind of numbers were released for the next 3 seasons after this one. So we really kind of took a look at those numbers, and the cap is really going up a ton. It is skyrocketing up over the next 3 seasons, starting this offseason. So I think when you add in a contract of $8 million for JT Miller and kind of what he can be long term, and be that maybe 90 to 100 point kind of guy, or worst case scenario, he's going to be at least 8 point per game player in my opinion, and that's kind of the very low end for JT Miller, is him being 8 point per game kind of player. That's pretty much the low end in my opinion, probably for him, and that's still him being a solid kind of 2A guy, still being that physical player. But when you factor that in an $8 million contract, and with how much the cap is truly going up, I think this contract is going to look really, really good. And even in 2-3 seasons, I think it's going to look really good. And even in 4 or 5 seasons, right at kind of the end of this deal, I think it could still look pretty fine there because of his kind of play style and how it, like I said, I think it projects fine long term and should not really kind of factor in too much. Now, obviously, if injuries start to pop up and he really becomes an injured player, that's a whole nother story. But as of right now, I don't see why he can't be a good player for the next, at least, 3, maybe even 4 or 5 seasons possibly, until pretty much the end of this deal. And Mika Zibanejad, now that's a whole different story. And I definitely am more than okay if this Rangers team can possibly try and find a trade to actually get rid of Mika Zibanejad. And, I've been a fan of his for a while now. I was a really big fan of that trade when it happened originally when he came over from the Ottawa Senators. I thought that was an incredible steal for the Rangers to, get that higher draft pick there and get the younger kind of maybe higher potential guy in Mika Zibanejad over Derek Brassard at the time. So I've been a big fan of his for a very long time. I've got his jersey, but I think at this point for both player and team, moving on from Mika Zibanejad and getting him a new kind of home could be what's best for both sides. So if the Rangers can kind of work out a trade where he ends up waiving his no-move clause, I definitely think they should look to do that, and it definitely could work out for both sides where Mika kind of turns around his career and the Rangers get off this contract. But it's not going to be that easy, and the Rangers also may have to retain some money or possibly give up something decent alongside Mika for a team to accept him onto their team. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. I will be posting every single day like always, so if you are a New York Rangers fan, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. It also helps out the channel a ton, and I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot. It definitely helps out a ton, as well as definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on adding in JT Miller. I mean, personally, like I said, I think it's a good deal. I think it's going to be good for this team, and I think what the Rangers gave up is not too bad at all for a player of his caliber. I understand the kind of risks of this deal, but I think for the most part there, the reward definitely outweighs the risk here. I definitely think he's going to be a really good player for this team and is the exact type of player I wanted to see this team add in, but I also definitely know that he is not going to be the savior of this team, and we definitely need to see some more moves happen here if this Rangers team truly wants to win that cup. Anyways, though, like I said, comment down below your thoughts, hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you next one. Bye.